Welcome to Perspectives, a podcast by Essence Learning LLC, and a place where leaders learn from leaders. Let's join today's episode.
Welcome all. I'm Robert Lee, and today I'll be facilitating the conversation with the panelists that you have today. We're going to talk about something that we started a year ago around male mentorship. I'll pass it to my guy Troy to start off.
Appreciate that. Well, good day everyone, all the Essence watchers. Glad you're watching today. My name is John Jacobs. A lot of people call me Troy, JJ, but you can just call me John for today. I'm the Director of Student Success in the Office of Student Life at Northeast Lakeview College, part of the Austin Community College District, Alamo College District, and I'm so glad to be here. I'm going to pass it off to the next guest.
Hey everybody, thank you for having me. My name is Roberto Jolliffe. I'm the CEO and founder of Adventures App, an innovator and a voiceover actor, and I'm an esports STEM enthusiast. So yeah, I'm here to just provide candid information and enlighten everybody on just how to be a mentor.
Welcome. Glad to have you fellas today.
Glad to be here.
Hey.
So let's get right into it. We're continuing the conversation that we started last year. Troy, you're jumping on the set with us, so please give your perspective on what a mentor is.
Yeah, I think that conversation is an important conversation now more than ever. Being the pandemic, a lot of people are, in homes, trapped in homes, don't have that connection that we normally do. For me, mentorship is very important, right? It provides the guidance and direction, especially in different phases of our lives. I think that sometimes we feel like we need to have one mentor, but in my philosophy, you can have several mentors. You can have a personal mentor, a professional mentor, a spiritual mentor, but the main thing is someone who feels like, I don't know everything, and I need the wisdom of others, right? And so it takes the person to feel like, hey, there's a connection that I need. There's some things I need to know, right? And so for me, mentorship is very important. Like I mentioned, I have several types of mentors, and it's guided me in every phase of my life. And recently, I refreshed my mentors, right? And I actually call them my board of directors, right? So every company, every agency has some kind of board of directors, and those mentors are my board of directors. So mentorship is very important.
What about you?
Yeah, I think it's the same. I share the same sentiments as him. I believe that mentorship is key. A lot of people don't know about mentorship until later in life. So you find out you're navigating in unknown circumstances or unknown purposes because you don't know who to go out to or who to reach to. So I look at mentors as not just somebody that just gives you guidance and advice here and there, but somebody that's really active in wanting to see your progress or success in your life. Because there's a lot of people that say they're mentors and they just go do good, go look at that. Are they really advocating for your well-being? Are they really pouring into you and really understanding you? Doing check-ins with that person,
right.
Somebody that's really vouching for you to progress over time, not just be I'm gonna just pump you up here and there. You're doing good, man. Just keep going. Come back to me if you ever need to talk. Somebody that's really hey, I see you actually did progress. I gave you homework, you did it. I'm gonna go point you to somebody else. I'm gonna get you tapped in where you want to be tapped in at. I see somebody being involved in that sense.
Okay. So with that, with the explanation that y'all gave as far as what a mentor is, since we're talking about male mentorship, how do you guys think as men we play a role in that space? How often?
Yeah, I think you said some really great things, bro, in regards to mentorship and mentorship versus sponsorship, right? You have people who can mentor you, give you guidance or whatever, but sponsorship is someone who puts their neck out there and says, hey, this guy Roberto, I want to hire, you should hire him now, right? And so I think it's powerful. But to your question in regards to male mentorship, is very, very important. For the area in which the area that I'm an expert in regards to education, higher education, we're finding that males have the lowest enrollment in higher education any time ever. I mean, there's a gap, a discrepancy between male and females in higher education right now. There's a discrepancy in regards to education outcomes for young males because of the pandemic, the outcomes of the pandemic in secondary education. So Male mentorship connection and engagement is so important. So I encourage anybody who's watching this right now, if you don't have your male watching this and you're not reaching out to another young male, or if you're not paying for it, this is the time to do it. This is the time to make that extension to that young man who's been calling you or been watching you, looking up to you, and you're watching them, they're watching you. Reach out to them because it's very important. So to your question, it's very important that male to male connection. Not to say that females cannot mentor males. I'm not saying that at all. But there is a power, there's a connection, there's a level of understanding that males have with males. I'm looking at y'all because y'all really know what I'm talking about. You know, it's different when guys get together versus when girls get together, or girls and guys get together. It's just their connection, and you don't have to go through all that, the natural, the unnatural relationship and conversations, the awkward. Males and males can make that connection. So
no, yeah, I definitely want to piggyback on top of that. Like, not to knock women. My parents split when I was like 9 years old, and so it's just me and my brother, and I'm the oldest, so I don't have. I was always the older male mentor. Not to knock my mom, she instilled a lot in me, but I was still going out. I'm hard-headed. I wanted to learn things my own way.
Right.
I didn't have nobody there to guide me. I could guide others, but nobody could guide me. And my mom raised me in a way of like, hey, you don't need nobody. You can do it by yourself. You don't look at me. I'm raising you two boys. And that got me only so far until when I got further in life, I'm like, dang, I actually really need people. Like, it's not that my mom raised me wrong, but that's what she knew. So we have to elevate and go back and teach them.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's key because I started getting male mentors like when I was like 22, just an older guy at work, but I didn't know he was mentoring me. He was just like taking me to breakfast in the morning, like, hey man, let me tell you about the day. Let me tell you about the area we're in at work. I was like, okay, I guess. Like, I thought it was weird, but then I looked back, I was like, oh, he was trying to pour into me. I didn't know it then. And then when I went to USA and got into the call center there, I had another male mentor, Mo. Everybody knows he owns his own Warhawk Group security now. But like, he had poured into me on the floor, and I never had an older brother or older figure. I was always just navigating my lanes by myself. But he kind of put me on a track, and I was like, dang, this is important. This is pivotal. Like, because I look at him like a brother or father figure. Like, oh dang, like he know more than me. He's been here, so how can I utilize with him? But it's a different effect, like you said. It's a different pairing when you have a male mentor and a female. My mentor is my mom for most of my life, so I seen, okay, go off of that. But then when I had that male pairing, I was like, oh, he showed me another lane I wasn't even thinking of from a man's stature or standpoint.
You know, and it's funny you mentioned some things about, you know, someone mentoring you but you did not know. And I hear that story all the time. Somebody was guiding me, I just didn't know it. I realized it later on. And while I think that's powerful, because I'm in that same situation, I think that's an area that we need to challenge and change. If you're gonna mentor someone, tell them you're mentoring them, right? So they know, right? So I know as a young male, hey, I have a mentor. His name is X, Y, and Z, and he does what X. So that is more empowering than you haphazardly finding out later on, oh, somebody was pouring out to you. Unless somebody's saying, hey, I'm intentionally bothering you. Right.
You have the expectation of what's the situation, what we're doing here.
And I don't think a lot of people understand the impact of it. Back then, I think at that time I was 20, he might have been in his late 50s. He was done in the game, but like, I don't know, he probably knew he was very religious in the church. I think he was just doing that out of his natural nature. But like, when I start getting in the rooms where there are executives and there's less people of color in the rooms, I'm like, oh yeah, I had a mentor for, like, I was like 15, 20, I'm like, dang, I didn't even know that existed. Like, I didn't know people were doing that at that age. I didn't know somebody had like actual, like you said, hey, I'm a mentor you with this, that, and the third. I met a gentleman that has like a lawyer app. He was like, yeah, my neighbor, he lent me $400K, and he just always poured into me since I was young. From 15, I went to UT, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what kind of neighbors do you have that lend you $400K? And he's like, yeah, his neighbor's like, when you do something good, when you're ready to present me your business plan, this is him talking to him when he was a little kid. And poured into him. He's like, and he went to college and presented him a business plan, he invested in him. I was like, I've never seen that in my life, so I don't know how do I have those conversations. These guys already have these conversations at 12, 13, 14, 15. So yeah, the male mentorship, it can be detrimental, especially from somebody in that level of business or that stature, or yeah, he's a CEO, he's an executive, or like they have their own business, and you're like, I don't know, what are the right questions to ask and things of that nature.
So thinking about that then, with you having a male mentor, not exactly knowing kind of what the situation is, how is it that, I guess, how open were you to accepting that feedback? Like you said, you don't know what the situation is yet, you have someone pouring into you. What is it with us males to where, how is it that we open up and accept that feedback?
You know, you said a few things. I think that where we can grow in is that, you know, for us, we can model the way, right? Having these conversations that Essence Learning is doing is reaching out to people and saying, hey, you need to bridge that gap, you know, making sure that that's there. For me, in my situation, you know, I really desired it, you know, and so my desire led me to it, right? But not all guys have a desire, because to your question, your point, that there are moments in your life that you get discouraged. It's like, man, I tried, I reached out to this dude, he did not respond, or I was in a situation, it just didn't work out, I didn't know what to say. I was in the room, missed my opportunity, right? And so I think we'll have to build resilience and persistence with our young men, saying that if you reach out one time, reach out again, don't give up, right? And so I think it's the persistent conversation, while the mentors, us as we walk into areas of mentorship, that we model the way, that we learn from other generations and take that, appreciate what they did, but also say, okay, there's something we need to change. Like, I'm going to be specific in my outreach to these young men.
Yeah. So it sets the standard, you know, gives you something to pass along to future generations.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, do you guys feel that it's beneficial, or not necessarily beneficial? Is it a necessity to have a mentor?
Yeah, I would definitely say it is a necessity. Like, since I didn't have one when I was young, in my younger days, I didn't have one, but I got to where I wanted to in life just by being hungry, and I always yearned for knowledge. So I was always knocking on people's doors just by myself. Like, I'm gonna meet you, I work the night shift, I'll come in the morning, I'll do this. But I didn't have anybody to tell me. But then that, if you're hungry and you're like trying to get the knowledge, and then you get paired with a mentor, like I think the sky's the limit, because then they can harness that power you have and kind of drive you to another level, or redirect you and say, hey, like, I see what you're doing, but like put it in this lane, and use your energy towards this, and actually help bring your purpose to life in a different way. That's how I look at that.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like I said earlier, I think it's important. But you know, a lot of people have made it without one,
yeah,
right? There are people that have the privilege and power, and they're able to get into doors without having those connections. But for those who don't have those resources, that mentorship is a tool, right? It's a tool. It is a practice that men should just be in practice to do, whether you have privilege or not, no privilege. You should seek mentors.
Yeah, I think like if there's a room or there's a field you want to be in, even like for me, like I wanted to be in IT. Like I had a friend, just happened to be fortunate. One of my friends when I was in high school, his dad has like he had a Fortune 500 business that got paid for, contracted out by the government in Fort Bliss or El Paso, Texas. And I just went to his office one day. I was like, yo, I want to talk to your dad. What does he do? He's like, oh yeah. I was like, can you give me some advice on what to do? He's like, yeah, go to IT. I was like, I always tinker with stuff, always like tinker with electronics, buying phones off of eBay and things of that nature. But then when he said that, I was like, dang, it just lit a fire. Like, let me go check in that lane. And I think people, once you do that, they'll start pointing you. If you go to the area you want to be into, IT or fashion, you start hanging around those environments, those peer groups, you're gonna find where you want to be. Like if you're into, like, for me, I do voice acting. I go find those communities on Facebook or look for them on YouTube, write to people, and I search and I seek out mentors from those groups, because obviously if they're successful, they're doing something right, I want to learn more from them, that maybe I can put that tool in my toolkit or my arsenal of like, okay, this is how I get better, this is how I elevate myself. And eventually, like, if you start surrounding yourself with those people, you're gonna learn. Like they say, you put yourself in a room, if you're hanging out with millionaires, you eventually gonna be a millionaire one day, because you're gonna learn something. If you're doing it right, you're gonna pick up something from them while they're mentoring, pouring into you.
So you have to be willing to put yourself in that set.
Yes.
Surround yourself by successful people.
Yes, that's a two-way street. It takes two efforts on both ends. You just can't just your mentor and go hang out with them and you not put in the work yourself either. I think you both have to reciprocate one another.
What are your thoughts though on cross-gender mentorship?
Yeah, as we said earlier, that I think that that young ladies and women can be mentors to young men. I would say the owner of Essence Learning is a mentor to me, has been a mentor since I came to Texas. She has modeled the ways of working with people. She talked about earlier in the other podcast of being an influencer, and I'm an influencer as well, and I saw that in her. So I wanted to stay close, right? And so, again, without saying anything, I was watching her do things, create Essence Learning, grow it. And so, again, that hunger was there, that desire was there, but also aligned with someone, whether it's male or female, that was going the same direction I was going.
Definitely.
So definitely it can happen, but I also think that when mentorship, as I said earlier, can be all kinds of things. It can be professional, but also can be personal.
Yeah.
And so when you walk into personal spaces, you know, it's important to have that person that you can confide in that can meet you where you are. And I found older, and I say older because I prefer people that have been there, done that. No offense to people that are one step in front. They need to be experienced.
You show and tell. Like, I mean, you live in life, you've shown, you've done something, if you're successful. Not to knock anybody that's young, there are successful young people you can still learn from, or that's beneath you. I think, like you said, it's like if you share that same synergy, you can learn from a woman, like, or not, like, whatever gender, like, you can learn from. They have a different perspective that you can put, like, damn, I didn't think to go from this angle, like, for this different market segment. I didn't even think to look at it from this perspective, because you don't have that experience. So they can provide something for you that can be pivotal for your product or whatever you're trying to do in business.
Okay, and that's the pivotal aspect of it, but what about what obstacles might you face, being whether it's man to woman or woman to man in that reverse mentorship world? What challenges might you face?
I mean, mentorship, and we talked about earlier about just, I think of pride. Pride is the big thing. We talk about male mentorship, let's get right down to it. It's the pride. It's like, okay, I don't, you know.
So speak on it. Tell us about that,
bro.
The pride.
Yeah, I think that we come in at different levels. You know, if you are a young man coming into your career in your field, you might not want to share with somebody that, hey, you just lost your job, or you're not doing well in your job, or you're seeking these opportunities. You know, young men in general, we struggle, even higher ed, as I mentioned earlier, we struggle in asking people for something.
Yeah.
Like, we struggle in that. We want to pick ourselves up in our own bootstraps, and as you said earlier, maybe our mothers or our fathers taught us to do things on our own. You don't need nobody's help. Well, that sometimes be counterintuitive, right?
It becomes it's a help at first, but it does become a disadvantage, because then you start realizing once you get into a conversation with other people of other races or affluency, you're like, oh, like y'all had help.
They had help.
Like, oh, you just asked.
Right.
I was like, no, I didn't even think to ask, because I was always told just do it by yourself. You figure it out. But they ask, like, they don't. You kind of have to get rid of the ego, like you said.
Absolutely.
You have to get rid of the pride and throw it to the side and be like, hey, at least I asked, because you don't want to look back on life with no regrets and be like, oh, dang, I should have asked that guy, my uncle, he had this crazy business, I just never asked him, because, like, ask him. And at least, you know, you can check off on your list, like, hey, I tried in my life, I attempted, I reached out to my network, and if your inner network doesn't work, you have to go outside of that.
Step outside that comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I think you guys made some great points. I know you mentioned, Bert, that, you know, you have Mo that you looked up to, as far as in relation when you stepped in the door at a Fortune 500 company. Troy, you mentioned that, you know, you have the CEO and founder of Essence Learning, who provided you some insights on how to navigate and make certain moves at certain points in your life. Any other mentors that you guys had?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier about spiritual mentor. My pastor is my mentor. Shout out to Apostle McCreary. You know what I'm saying? He definitely has been a spiritual mentor. You know, I'm the kind of person also that, and I shared with him and many other mentors that I don't need a whole lot. I would prefer you just model the way. Just whatever you say you're gonna do, you do it, and so I can get a model, a template.
So with somebody watching.
Right.
Observing.
I just need a template, right? You don't gotta. I can watch. I got good eyes. I can really observe. I got notes. Just show me how you did it, and I'll rock it. You know. And so I think that's important for, as you develop your mentorship, whatever mentorship it is, you have to have someone who's really doing it, right? Who's modeling the way. And I said earlier, it's okay to make some shifts in your mentorships as you grow. As I'm moving into the 40s, I'm like, okay, I need someone who financially sound, got 7 different types of, you know, incomes coming in. I want to know how you invest it, because that's where I'm at right now. What are you doing with your family? That's where I am, and so it's okay to shift around what types of mentors that you have.
Yeah, so, you know, like you said, like for you, like your shift of mentors, for me, like I try to shift them too. Like most recently, like these past couple years, I've been mentored by like Dirk Ellendorf. He's like one of the founders of Rackspace, and just met him on the community channel from Y Combinator. and things like that. But he pours onto me from the business, on the tech scene, like just for my app and things of that nature. So it's cool to just set round tables and just meet with him just to get his perspective, because he came up in this tech game and he's still doing stuff with the city of San Antonio. But another one, like, is a cross-gender role, is my aunt. And I didn't meet my aunt till 2009. Like, she was my grandfather's Rolling Stone. So yeah, I didn't know. My dad brought her up. Oh yeah, I have a sister. She's in New York. She does. She's a moderator. She does stuff for BET, VH1, Hennessy, Popeyes.
Wow.
So like, in a moderator, most people don't know what a moderator is, but it's like the glass panel where they do focus groups. So she does focus groups for like TV shows and stuff like that. So I lived with her in LA a couple years ago, just to get mentored by her, because this is her own. It's called Jolliffe Research Group, and it's our own business. Black woman, Afro-Latino woman, Panamanian, and yeah. So she just showed me like, hey, I did this myself. She's like. She just poured into me and showed like money can't be all your focal or central goal sometimes, because she was like a director at CNBC, and this was like 1992, and she's like, the best part of my day was going to lunch. And she's like, this is like, you're making six figures. I was 31 years old. She's like, and she's like, a lady poured into her, and she's like, this white lady met her, and she was like, hey, have you ever tried to do this? And I was like, dang. And she just said she studied that at night for a year, and then she jumped into her own lane. And then that inspired me, like, because I was like, oh, you were successful in this is like later in life. Like, this is like your second breath of career. And she poured, and I just went out there, and she was always like, hey, this is how you structure deals. This is how you talk. She brought me into a session, a moderation session, and hey, this is how you navigate the room. This is how you navigate different market segments, different cultural backgrounds and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, like, that just showed me like I can do whatever I want. Like, she poured into me, and that's like I tapped into those like mentors. They showed me like, hey, it is possible. Like, there's enough money out here for everybody. There's enough opportunities. You just gotta hustle and grind for it. And if you want it, they're gonna give it to you, especially from the mentorship aspect.
Okay. And with that, you know, you guys being trailblazers in, you know, kind of the aspect and where you're going with yourself, your individual companies and goals and so forth, how do you make time to give back and be a mentor to someone else with all that you have going on? You know, you have families, you have this. How do you cut that time out to be a mentor and give back, whether it be to the youth or somebody aspiring to be where you are?
I think you just like make the time. If somebody's showing you that if I see what I saw in myself, and they're like, you really coming to me and saying, hey, I really want to, like, I'm trying to do this, or I want to look into voice acting, I want to look into how do I get to IT in this field, and like you're reaching out and I see that you're hungry, I'm gonna make time for you. I'm gonna put you on my calendar. As we get older, the calendar becomes like so detrimental to your life. So like, hey, I'm gonna schedule a slot for you, and we're gonna meet up. I'm gonna get some coffee with you just to chop it up and see who you are. And like, hey, let's work on stuff, man. Hey, I'm gonna just be straight up with you. I might not have all the time here and there, but I'm gonna just be direct, because I think those are the best conversations if you don't like pull people by the string and like, no, like, hey, this is my time, this is what I can do. I can't be available at all times, but I can be available for you in that time. And just try to keep pouring into that way, like, hey, just let them know, like, we can do something if you're serious, but I'll make time for you.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think that, you know, there's a lot of great feelings, but the feeling of someone coming back to you and saying, hey, because you spent time with me, because you invested in me, X, Y, and Z happened, right? That's something powerful, and I remember that experience myself. So I have to pay it forward. You're right. What you said earlier reminded me of some young men, and that's part of my mentor group that I oversee at my institution. Young men wasn't doing well in school, and two of them, I brought them in. I was very, very busy. My schedule was packed. My Outlook calendar was crazy. But I had to pause. I was like, gentlemen, look, these GPAs ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
We got to I walked this man right down to the tutoring office. He met the person in charge of the tutoring office. Then we walked over to the table where the math tutor was. You're gonna meet the tutor. Like, it took 15, 10, 20 minutes. I had an event going on downstairs. I had to come to the guy I was in charge of. But I had to pause and make time, right? Because this young man, this happened to be two African American young men. These young men need people to give them attention at that moment. And I know that's an investment for their future, right? And so we have to make that time. So thank you for bringing that up.
You definitely have to make that time. You don't know, like, that time you took was a lot for you, but they don't know that. They don't know what you put in. But like, you showing them that takes them just that far. Like, even for me, like, I had a gentleman in college. He's like, yo, can you just look over my pitch deck? I was like, oh, it's like a couple 15 minutes, but like he came back real quick and just said, hey, I won the competition in my class because you helped me tweak my deck. I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh, I can look it over. But like, that's something big for them if they're looking like, hey, and they're very detrimental in their life. And you're like, okay, like it's a feel-good moment because you took your time out and helping pour into them and they're being successful. Like, I love to see that.
Yeah. I'll say this last thing. That's a charge for all the young men that are watching them. Is I know we're busy in our lives. Everyone's busy.
Yeah.
But this next season, 2022, make the time. Open your schedules up. Interrupt some things that you personal things you want to do to outreach to another young man so they can be successful like you are.
Yeah, you got to take the time and look back to like when you was in their shoes.
Absolutely.
Like, oh man, I just want to meet this guy. I want like you was that boy, you was that person at one time. You was that kid. You was that hungry. Like, hey, I want to put on your skin. Don't forget you was there too one day, and you got to like remember to like pay it forward. Send the elevator down and bring the other people back up.
All right, I think you guys shared some great points today. I appreciate you guys being on the discussion today with me, sharing this platform and being vulnerable, sharing your thoughts as far as to the male perspective. With that being said, thank you guys for viewing. There pretty much information you can find at www.essencelearning.net. There's training courses that we can continue having this conversation. The essence of me is one. The power and influence within the workplace. Please check out those courses and y'all have a great one.
Have a nice one.
Thank you for joining Perspectives, a podcast by Essence Learning LLC. Essence Learning is your solution to personal and professional development. We partner with our clients to develop a learning strategy that will increase productivity, enhance performance, and align with their purpose and goals. For more information, visit us online at essencelearning.net or call us at 1-877-657-5755.